Where's your office?
This is it.
This is it? This is your office?
Most restaurant owners have an office. Umberto Corteo has flour on the floor, dough in the machine, and an oven waiting for the next pie.
I call this my office. I make pizza dough.
For more than 60 years, this is where he has wanted to be. But before Long Island knew the name Umbertos, he was just one kid in a family of 11, growing up across the ocean. Umberto says he was born in 1943 during World War II in Monte di Procida, near Naples. He was the 7th of 11 children, 6 boys, 5 girls. His family had a small farm, fruit, vegetables, grapes, homemade wine. Before food became a business, it was simply life. You grew it. You made it. You shared it.
My father was very humble, but also strict. He teach me how to work the farm. He put a shovel in my hand when I was 12 years old.
His father taught him how to work. But his mother is the memory that stays underneath everything. She traveled between Italy and America while her children built new lives far from home. And decades later, when Umberto talks about her, that distance still hurts. At 19, Umberto left Italy for New York. He arrived in America. He did not arrive with a restaurant. He did not arrive with a famous recipe. He arrived ready to work.
I came to this country when I was 19 years old. I went to work in a restaurant. As a dishwasher. I learned how to make pizza.
Brooklyn gave him the first lesson of his American life. Start at the bottom. Watch closely. Learn the trade.
Once you like to work, nothing gets hard. If you don't like to work, then everything will become really hard.
A few years later, Umberto and his brother made their first real bet, a small pizzeria in Park Slope, Brooklyn.
And I bought it for $3,000.
$3,000.
It was a small joint. You know, we cleaned it up. Mm-hmm. We started to make a good pizza. Mm-hmm. And before you know, we made a pretty good name.
Then a regular customer kept talking about a place on Long Island, New Hyde Park. Umberto says brothers bought a building there. He would do what he knew best, open the kitchen. In 1965, Umberto and his brother Joe opened the original Umbertos. It began as a small pizzeria, but it became the place where the work of his life would happen. And then there was the pizza that became part of Long Island food history. Not because Umberto sat down trying to invent a legend. According to him, it started because he and his brother needed lunch.
One day in Brooklyn, I used to cook for me and my brother for lunch.
Yeah.
So one day I says, I don't know what to cook. So before you know, I made a grandma pizza. And that grandma pizza was not square. That was made in a frying pan, but it was round. It was not square.
Later, in New Hyde Park, the pie moved into a square pan.
So then when I came to New Hyde Park, I started making the pizza in square pan. And we decided to say, okay, grandma's pizza, and we call it grandma's pizza. But nobody told me, teach me how to do the grandma pizza with the tester.
Pizza people can argue forever about who made what first, but Umberto's became one of the Long Island restaurants that helped make grandma pizza famous. And his version started with a hungry guy, a frying pan, and no idea what to cook for lunch. But the restaurant was never only about pizza. It was also where people worked together for years, where they ate after closing, where coworkers became friends, and sometimes where friends became family.
He's the #1 pizza man.
What's his name? Hi. What's your name?
Artemio.
Artemio.
Yes.
How long have you been working here?
Only 25 years.
25 years?
Only.
Only?
After we close, we sitting at the table, a lot of food at the table, some wine, and we had a lot of fun. We work hard, but at nighttime we sit together.
Those people was Joey Isgro, a chef, a co-worker, a friend.
He was a great man. He was a very family man.
Very respectful.
He had 3 kids like I did. and we worked about 15 or 16 years together. We never had a fight.
Joey eventually opened his own restaurant. Umberto encouraged him. But when Joey passed away, you can hear what that friendship meant.
Bad, very bad.
Oh, very bad.
Yes. When they told me they passed away, but I felt bad, very bad. He didn't deserve that.
For Umberto, work was never just the oven, the dough, or the money. It was the people standing beside. And before New Hyde Park became home, there was Rosanna.
How did you meet your wife?
She lived next door to me.
Next to you?
Their fathers were friends. They grew up near each other in Italy. They married there in 1972.
We grew up together, me and my wife, and
Wow. She's a best friend.
she put up with me a lot. I guess she is my best friend.
3 children followed, then grandchildren. For Umberto, family was never what waited outside the restaurant. Family was the reason the restaurant mattered. And over time, other families began attaching their own memories to the place.
40 plus years, no matter what day you come, time of the day, busy, the line at the door, pizza always tastes the same. Now, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, as soon as you put it in your mouth, brings you right back.
That is why people came back. Not only for the pizza, for the feeling that some things in life could stay the same.
Because every time we go away, before we go away, we come to Umberto's. And when we get off the airplane and we're driving back home, he's always like, is Umberto's open? And we have a pizza on our way back. Anywhere we go.
For some families, it became the first stop before leaving and the first stop when they came home. But before the restaurant, before the customers, before the family he built in New York, there was the family that made him. And when Umberto talks about his mother, the kitchen gets quiet.
My mother was always saying to me how lucky she was, having 11 kids all her life, 11 kids all her life, and no sickness. So she always told me to taking care of your health, because the only thing you have is your health.
She had crossed an ocean to stay close to her children. And years later, Umberto went back across it to see her.
My father died like 30 years ago, and my mother died maybe 26 years ago.
What was the last thing that she said?
Years. What a terrible things to lose. They do so much for us.
What was your happiest memory with your mother?
One time I went to Italy for 2 weeks, just myself, just to see my mother. And I stay, instead of 2 weeks, I stay 4 weeks. That was the best thing I ever did.
He spent his life feeding other people. But the memory that breaks him open is still home.
What do you miss most?
My mother, no question about it.
Maybe that is why he still comes back to the kitchen, not because he cannot stop working, because the work contains everyone he has loved.
You are never retired.
No,
Is there a reason why?
if I retire, I die.
That is not advice. It is just his truth.
My mentality is to cook fresh, 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 and give the best to the people. That's it. If I don't put my aprons on, it's like I'm naked. So you're never going to see me at Umberto with a suit on.
He came from a small town near Naples. He crossed an ocean at 19. He learned from a dishwasher station, built a pizzeria with his brother, and spent 6 decades turning work into a place people call home. Someone asked him how he wants to be remembered.
Simple, hard-working man.
So the apron stays on. The dough keeps moving. And at a kitchen on Jericho Turnpike, Umberto's life is not over. It is still being made.